Lake Como is one of the most famous luxury destinations in the world, and most people assume it's completely out of reach. That's not entirely true. I've pulled 8 real listings from the Lake Como area, with prices accurate at the time of this roundup, ranging from about $100,000 to just over $300,000. And we're going to look at what actually changes as the price goes up. Some of these are move-in ready, others are projects. And that difference matters more than you might expect. We're looking at what you really get for the money. The location, the views, the condition, and whether it's something you can live in now or something you'll need to build into. The last 2 properties are where things get interesting, so stay with me. Let's get into it. The lake from above is exactly what you've seen in every travel feature ever written about northern Italy. A narrow, Y-shaped basin, carved between the Alps. The water's so still in the early morning, it reads as a mirror. The town's climbing the hillsides in clusters of terracotta and stone. Milan is 40 minutes away. The Swiss border is closer than that. And right here at the southern tip and along the western shore, that's where today's properties live. Lombardy itself sits at the intersection of Alpine precision and Italian ease, a region where industry and beauty coexist without competing. The climate shifts subtly as you move around the lake. Cooler breezes near the mountains, softer, warmer air, closer to the southern edge. Architecturally, you'll see everything from centuries-old stone villas to modern, clean-lined apartments built to maximize light and views. It's not just a destination. It's a functioning region with infrastructure, culture, and a property market that reflects both. We're not talking about the most famous postcard addresses. We're talking about the real market, the one where actual people buy and live, and where the price-to-life ratio is genuinely worth understanding. And the game today is simple. We're watching what each price tier actually buys you in one of Europe's most coveted postcodes, and whether the jump from one level to the next is ever actually worth it. We start at 85,000 euros, $100,200, and this is the entry point that makes people stop scrolling. A 2-room flat in Plesio, just minutes from the center of Menaggio, on the second floor of a well-maintained building with a recently revised roof, and here's the detail that rarely appears at this price: no condominium fees. That last point matters more than it sounds. Simple management, no shared cost surprises, genuine independence from day one. The building sits in a quiet position where the pace is slower and nature does most of the work. Inside, an open-plan living area is anchored by a fireplace, the kind of feature that makes a small space feel considered rather than compact, with direct access to a balcony that faces the lake head-on, a frontal lake view from your balcony at $100,200. The double bedroom also has a lake view, the bathroom has a window and shower, and the property is self-heating via a pellet stove. There's also a cellar for storage, a public car park directly behind the building, and a communal green area outside. According to the listing, this is a property with a positive short-term rental history and real reviews behind it. So whether you're buying a personal retreat or an income-generating asset, the groundwork is already laid. And the best part is, you're buying a Lake Como address with panoramic lake views from both the living area and the bedroom, under $101,000. That's the anchor. That's what's possible here. But the leader's already shifting because the next one adds Carrara marble, 2 balconies, and it's still under $200,000. 165,000 euros. That's $194,700 for a modern 2-room apartment in Lombardy, first floor of a neat and quiet building recently renovated throughout. This part of Lombardy leans residential, quieter streets, less transient traffic, and a sense that people here are living year-round rather than passing through. The architecture reflects that. Practical layouts, durable materials, and just enough design detail to elevate the everyday without overcomplicating it. It's the kind of environment where a property isn't just a place to stay, it's a place to settle into. The finishes here are the story. Oak effect wood fiber flooring, Carrara marble elements, wall-mounted sanitary ware in the bathroom. This is a contemporary fit-out that would feel at home in a much more expensive property in a much more expensive city. The living area is open plan with the kitchen and opens onto a balcony. The double bedroom has its own separate balcony. 2 balconies on a renovated apartment under $200,000 with Carrara marble in the bathroom and a finished level described in the listing as ready to be lived in. No major renovations. Solid property. According to the listing, this is a place you can actually move into. Clothes in the wardrobe, coffee on the balcony, done. And the best part is, for less than $200,000, you're getting a level of interior finish that the price tag has no business delivering. For a remote worker, for a couple, for anyone who wants a proper Lombardy base without a renovation project shadowing the first year. This is the one that earns its price. But hold on, because the next one breaks the apartment format entirely and gives you something that changes the conversation. Quick Lake Como context. The Western Shore, the Tremezzina, Menaggio, the hillside villages above the lake is where Italian families have been spending summers for generations. It's quieter than the busiest tourist spots. The light in the afternoon is extraordinary, and the villages feel genuinely lived in rather than performed for visitors. As you move higher into the hills, the pace slows even further, and the architecture shifts from polished waterfront villas to more rustic, stone-built homes that prioritize durability and position over presentation. This is where the lake becomes less of a spectacle and more of a backdrop to everyday life. Keep that in mind as we move up the list. 199,000 euros. That's $234,800. And here's the format shift. A detached house in the hilly area of Plesio, on the western shore of Lake Como, 15 minutes from Menaggio. Plesio sits above the lake in that quiet band where elevation reshapes perspective. You're looking down at the water rather than across it, and everything feels just a little more removed, a little more private. The air is cooler here, the road's narrower, and the buildings carry that layered history you only get in places that haven't rushed to modernize. It's not designed for spectacle. It's designed for permanence. This is a Larian municipality, Lario being the ancient name for the lake itself, in a historic village, and the property is arranged over 4 levels. The exterior is a detached house in an Italian hillside village, and that alone earns a moment. The first level, according to the listing, is currently configured for guests. Living room with kitchen, a bedroom with a balcony, and a bathroom. A self-contained guest floor in a house you own outright, in a village 15 minutes from one of Italy's most famous lake towns. Now, the listing is lighter on detail for the upper floors than we'd ideally like, so curator phrasing applies. Check the full condition documentation, verify each level, ask the right questions about what's been updated and when. But the structure, detached, multi-level, village setting, Western Shore, at this price, represents a category shift from the apartments above it. And the best part is, a detached house in a historic Larian village 15 minutes from Menaggio is not a listing type that comes to market at this price point often. For a family, for anyone who needs real separation of space, this is where the conversation changes. The next one, though, snaps back to a polished apartment and adds something most people don't expect at this price. A garage. 215,000 euros, $253,700, a bright 2-room flat on the 3rd floor within a horseshoe-shaped condominium complex. And this is where the altitude starts doing serious work. Properties at this level tend to trade immediate access for perspective, and when the trade-off lands correctly, the result is a property that feels bigger than its footprint because of what it sees. The listing describes striking mountain views, proper panoramic mountain views, from a floor high enough to see over everything below it. Inside, entrance hall, living room with open-plan kitchen, utility room, double bedroom, and a large bathroom with a bathtub. The property includes a cellar and a single garage, both accessible via a lift that connects all levels of the building from basement to residential floors. A garage, on Lake Como at $253,700. That detail is more significant than it sounds. Parking on this lake is not a given, and a deeded garage space is a genuine asset in a region where most apartments don't include one. According to the listing, this is a well-distributed, bright apartment with mountain views and functional infrastructure that most comparable properties don't offer. No major renovations described. Move-in ready is listed, and the best part is, the combination of third-floor mountain views, a garage, a cellar, and a lift-connected building at this price is the kind of package that disappears from the market before most buyers have finished reading the description. New leader? Strong argument. But don't click away, because the next one is fully furnished 5 minutes from the lake, and it's in Cernobbio, which is a name that carries real weight on this lake. 265,000 euros, $312,700. And we're in Cernobbio now, the town on the southwestern shore of the lake that sits just above Como City, and has been one of the most sought-after addresses on the water for well over a century. Cernobbio has a layered identity, part historic resort town, part residential enclave, with a waterfront that feels curated but not artificial. The presence of grand villas and luxury hotels sets a tone, but just a few streets back, life becomes quieter, more local, more grounded. It's one of those places where the prestige is real, but it doesn't overwhelm the day-to-day. The terrain slopes gently toward the lake, which means views are easier to capture, even without being directly on the water. This studio flat is part of a modern apartment block with a lift, second floor, and it's situated just behind Cernobbio Town Hall. Central, quiet, proper location, inside, sleeping area, living room, full-size open-plan kitchen, spacious bathroom with shower, and a balcony. But here's the detail that makes this one stand out from everything above it. It is sold fully furnished with a layout planned down to the smallest detail according to the listing, every corner functional. From the relaxation area to the bedroom, you could walk in with a suitcase and be home. And the best part is, this is a 5-minute walk from the lake, the Lido di Cernobbio, and numerous restaurants and cafes. 5 minutes in Cernobbio, fully furnished, under $315,000. For a remote worker who wants to arrive and start living immediately, or for anyone who wants a turnkey Cernobio address without the delay of furnishing and fitting out, this is the one that earns its price tier. The next one, though, takes us into the city of Como itself and adds 2 bathrooms, which changes the livability calculation entirely. Pattern interrupt. Como City deserves a moment. It sits at the southern tip of the lake's western branch. It has a proper historic center with Roman-era walls, a cathedral, a lakefront promenade, and direct train connections to Milan. But beyond that, Como functions as a real urban anchor for the entire region. It's where services concentrate, where infrastructure is strongest, and where year-round life is most consistent. The architecture here spans centuries, from medieval stone to more modern residential blocks, and that mix creates a layered cityscape that feels lived in rather than staged. The lake is still central, but it's integrated into daily life rather than defining it entirely. Owning in Como itself is a different proposition from owning in a lakeside village. And the next 2 properties make that case. 270,000 euros, $318,600. A bright 2-room flat in the prestigious Villa Astolfi complex in Como, recently renovated, ground floor, in a sought-after residential area just a few minutes from the city center and well served by public transport. Como as a city balances lakefront leisure with everyday functionality. It's where people actually live full-time, not just seasonally, and that changes how properties are used and valued. The listing describes airy, well-distributed rooms, a cozy living room with excellent natural light, a separate kitchen, separate not open plan, which is actually a preference for many buyers, a large bedroom, and 2 bathrooms. 2 bathrooms on a 2-room flat. That ratio is unusual and genuinely useful for anyone using the property with guests or as a primary residence. The property also includes unallocated parking spaces. According to the listing, it's recently renovated, no major renovations required, ready to move into. And the best part is Villa Astolfi is a named, prestigious address in Como. the kind of postcode that carries cachet within the local market, and you're getting a recently renovated flat with 2 bathrooms and parking in it for under $320,000. For city-oriented buyers, for anyone who wants Como as a proper base rather than a seasonal address, this is the most complete package we've seen so far. But the last 2 are the ones I've been holding back, and the final property on this list has something that almost nothing else at this price on the lake offers. Stay with me. 280,000 euros, $330,400. And this one earns its place near the top of the list through a combination that's genuinely hard to find. Panoramic views of both the city of Como and the lake from a hillside position in the eastern walled city, with a bus stop directly in front of the entrance that connects you to the city center and both train stations. The eastern side of Como carries a slightly different rhythm, more residential, less immediate tourist traffic, and a stronger sense of local continuity. The elevation here works in your favor, opening up sightlines across both the urban fabric and the water beyond it. It's a quieter vantage point, but in many ways a more complete one. The apartment itself is a 2-room flat, entrance hall, spacious living room, kitchenette, double bedroom, bathroom, and the living area has wooden floors and large windows that, according to the listing, not only provide magnificent views but ensure all rooms are bright and airy. The building is a mid-1970s condominium complex, which means the structure is well established and the cost predictable, and the hillside position in the walled city gives this property a historical context that new builds simply can't replicate. And the best part is, you're getting panoramic lake and city views from the historic walled quarter of Como, with direct public transport to the train stations, which means Milan in 40 minutes is genuinely effortless from this address. For remote workers, for part-time residents, for anyone who values that connection, this is the one that makes the access argument better than anything else on this list. One more, and this last one does something no other property today has done. 290,000 euros. That's $342,200. Gera Lario, at the northern tip of the lake, within the prestigious Il Giardino Pensile residence. And this is a newly completed 2-room apartment on the ground floor with a lift, an independent entrance, and here it is, an exclusive private garden of approximately 70 square meters, about 753 square feet, with a lake view. Gera Lario feels different the moment you arrive. The lake widens here, the mountains step back slightly, and the atmosphere shifts from polished to practical. It's less about presentation and more about livability. Windsurfing instead of yacht moorings, open space instead of tightly packed villas. The pace slows, the crowds thin, and the property market reflects that change in tone. This is where buyers start thinking less about prestige and more about lifestyle per square meter or square foot of ownership. A private garden with a lake view, newly completed on Lake Como, under $345,000. The apartment itself is composed of a welcoming entrance hall, a living room with panoramic windows and open-plan kitchen, a bedroom, hallway, bathroom, and an external utility room. The layout is complete and functional according to the listing, newly built to current standards. But the garden is the whole story. Everything else on this list has a balcony, a terrace, a view from a window. This one has a private outdoor space, your own garden, ground level, looking out at the lake, which is a category of property that almost never appears at this price on Lake Como, because outdoor private space at the water's edge commands a premium the market rarely discounts. According to the listing, this is a newly completed property. No renovation, no waiting, no compromise on condition. Move in, open the garden gate, and you're living a version of Lake Como life that most people assume requires a budget 3 times this size. Always check documents, fees, and condominium rules before committing. But at this price, with this specification and this address, this is the closing argument for why Lake Como in 2026 is still a market with genuine opportunity for the buyer who's done the research. So here's where we land. 8 properties, 1 lake, a price range from $100,200 to $342,200, and and what you actually get across that range is more nuanced than the numbers suggest. If you want the most accessible Lake Como entry point with a genuine lake view, Property 1, the beautiful 2-room apartment with a terrace for a little over $100,000. If you want the best turnkey move-in with the most complete finish, Property 5, the fully furnished Cernobbio apartment, 5 minutes from the water. If you want the most unusual outdoor space at any price on this list, Property 8, the newly completed Gera Lario apartment with the private lakeview garden, 70 square meters, about 753 square feet of private outdoor space. And if you need a garage in a region where parking is genuinely contested, Property 4, 3rd floor, mountain views, deeded garage, under $255,000. Comment below, which one would you actually choose? And what would you use it for? Primary residence, remote work base, or something else entirely? Subscribe if you want the next lake comparison, because the next one has properties at prices that make this list look like the expensive option. And the views are just as good. See you there.